Tonight, more reactions from the presentation of the media review and supplementary budget by the Finance Minister. Now, Ghana's debt to GDP is likely to cross the 60% ratio by the end of 2019, which could lead to a return to the International Monetary Fund. The minority in Parliament made this projection at a press conference on the media review presented by the Finance Minister yesterday. Ranking Member on Finance, Cassiel Atoforsen, warned that the debt stock, which currently stands at over 200 billion cedis, will cross 220 billion if the level of government's borrowing is not controlled. Ebenezer Sabote has more in this report.
Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta yesterday announced new tax measures in the mid-year review and supplementary budget. This is to enable government service its debts as well as honor other projects being undertaken. Presenting their views on yesterday's presentation, Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Cassiel Atoforsen, warned that the debt level is getting closer to unsustainable levels and must be tackled.
According to the government public financial statistics, Ghana's wage bill and debt service costs as at end of first quarter 2019 stood up at about 93% of the total revenue and grant, and is projected to reach about 95% by the time of this media review. Accumulation of arrests from the non-settlement of the government indebtedness to contractors is number 7. Our projections based on government-owned fiscal data shows that if the trend continues, the accumulation of arrests alone will reach approximately 30% of GDP, which is in cedi terms about 100 million Ghana cedis. 100 billion Ghana cedis.
The minority also claims that the energy sector levy has been mismanaged, with about 900 million cedis unaccounted for. Here is member of the Energy Committee, John Jinapo.
I'm saying that there's no justification for the energy sector levy account increment. Because when you look at the 2017 report of the account, an amount of 3.2 billion was collected. Only 2.4 billion was utilized, leaving an unutilized amount of 800 million. When you look at the 2018 one, 3 billion was collected, 2.3 was used, leaving an unutilized amount of 700 million. The combined effect is that we must have a surplus between these 2 years of, I'm doing 1 point. Okay, I'm coming back. We'll come back. So we must have an amount of 1.5 billion sitting in the account.
Meanwhile, Parliament has begun debating the proposed tax measures. Ebenezer Sabote's reports for Joy Business.
Meanwhile, governance expert Eric Oduosai is charging Ghanaians to seek accountability of the already existing energy sector levies introduced by government. He believes the upward adjustment by government in the 2019 media review is not justified if there is no accountability. He spoke to Ebenezer Sabote in Parliament after the presentation by the Finance Minister. Here is more in this report.
The decision by the Minister for Finance to increase the energy sector levy is part of a planned cleanup of the entire energy sector by government, after admitting that it is faced with huge challenges. As part of a plan, government is proposing an increase of 20 pesos per litre for petrol and diesel. This means one should soon expect an increase in fuel prices. Reacting to the developments, Dr. Oduosai believes the minister could have done better.
What I was expecting the minister to do is to account for how the ESLA budget has been used in previous years, what kinds of debt they have used it to pay, what is the outstanding debt, and how the increase in the requested increase will help them in paying for those debts.
You think he hasn't accounted for it enough?
Well, I think that there is more to be done in that regard. What Ghanaians should be asking for is how we are using ESLA to pay the existing debt. Rationalization in the energy sector is very good, but we should rationalize it in such a way that it will not affect Ghanaians. But I was happy he mentioned the era of doomsday is over. And it's something that we are all going to keep an eye on and ensure that once the sector is rationalized, doomsday should be over forever.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister for Communications, Soa Odotai, assures government is making prudent use of all the funds.
We are saddled with obnoxious PPA agreements, the take or pay, which is actually John Mahama signed. So they cannot tell us what to do. In life, you give money to people who have proven that they are prudent, they are efficient and can manage it. They were just wasteful, just wasting our resources. That is why the people of Ghana have given us the mandate. And I can assure you that for us even to exit the IMF, should tell you that we are prudent and we know that we have what it takes to manage our own resources.
Finance Minister Kofi also used the occasion to revise the revenue target for the year. Ebenezer Sabutis reports for Joy Business.
Well, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASEP, says government must have a strategy to hold growth of the energy sector desk in the midst of tough decisions. Executive Director of ASEP, Ben Boache, has been reacting to the Finance Minister's measures to rationalize the energy sector. Speaking on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM, he questioned why government is taking the risk to export power when it doesn't make market sense.
I think for the energy sector, it is difficult at this point to really push for raising more money because the tariff has already gone up. So to raise more money, then it means you have to get the public to pay more. Okay. But what is crucial at this point is for us to have a strategy that actually freezes the debt accumulation, stop us from accumulating more debt.
Okay.
If you are paying $100 million a month for energy sector challenges, that is not sustainable. So how do you deal with that to ensure that you can halt, the growth of the debt in the energy sector, and then the ESLA then becomes relevant in dealing with the outstanding debt. It's what we really have to do. So tough decisions have to be taken. Which power plants we have to cancel immediately to see if you have to pay a consequence of $100 million is better than paying $1 billion in 5-6 years, down the line. So those are the decisions that are required. But most importantly, also, poor decisions have to cease. Because we are still taking decisions that are creating more debt. For example, the minister talks about excess gas supply. What we know that our own gas, we are not able to consume our own gas, and yet plans are afoot to import gas through LNG, which is estimated to cost over $800 million every year if it becomes excess supply. So how do we stop some of these decisions from maturing? It's the key problem we have right now. Ensure that there's transparency in procurement of fuel. In the power sector, fuel is quite significant. If you have a power plant consuming about $4 million in 2 days, and you're not transparent about how you procure it, if you add a cent on each even barrel, that is significant, in accumulating more debt for the power sector. So transparency across the board is important, which is not happening at this point. And we need to improve those to ensure that we are not adding more to the debt. That is the only way out, because if we don't find a way around, debt accumulation.
So the cost of cleaning up the financial sector could now reach 21 billion cedis by the end of this year. This based on a new update from the Finance Minister, Kofi, when he presented the media review to Parliament on Monday, raising questions about the approach used in cleaning up the financial sector. JoyNews has more in this report.
The Finance Minister in the presentation said that he was afraid the cost of the financial sector cleanup could reach $3 to $4 billion. Now, if we use the Bank of Ghana's dollar transaction rate for commercial banks of 5 Ghana cedis, 25 pesos, then that could be equal to 21 billion Ghana cedis. This is about 3 billion Ghana cedis more than what Joy Business had projected last month as in what could be the cost of this cleanup. The cost may even be realized before the end of this year, as the Finance Minister Kofi had told Joy Business that the last batch of reforms, which will target the savings and loan sectors, would happen before the end of September this year. We are, however, learning that this may exclude the estimated cost of any cleanup in the capital and investment space.
The recapitalization exercise undertaken by Bank of Ghana, which sought to increase the stated minimum capital of banks from 120 million to 400 million, ended in December 2018 with a total of 23 banks meeting the requirements. Following the cleanup exercise, total assets of the banking sector increased by over 12% between June 2018 and June 2019. Total deposits also increased by over 22% during this period. With the rebound of the sector, banks are now poised to deploy their newly injected capital towards financial intermediation to aid the development process. Asset quality has also improved, as reflected in the declining non-performing loans ratio from 22.6% in June 2018 to 18.1% June 2019. There was also significant improvements in the bank's profitability indicators.
But for some, the rising cost raises concerns about whether government should have used this approach. Also, others have argued that the appointed receivers may have to work hard to recover the cost from owners and directors of these liquidated banks. One of the receivers had told Joy Business that they were even struggling to identify assets, the directors and owners of these defunct banks. The 21 billion Ghana cedis are just projections, and again, this amount could increase before the end of this year.
Well, away from the media review, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Kofi Grant, is calling for restraint following recent rifts between Ghanaian and foreign retailers. Mr. Grant says although the Ghana Union of Traders Association may have legitimate concerns about the presence of foreigners in our retail markets, issues must be tackled in view of the ongoing efforts to promote intra-Africa trade.
We're in Ghana, so we want Ghanaian businesses to succeed, primarily. That's all. But we also, we are in partnership with the other countries. And as the CFTA comes in, we need to be clear on what our objectives are and how we engage with the other countries. We are looking at a sector that would remove tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade. And so that's the frame in which we look at many of these things. But at the end of the day, the beneficiary must be Ghana. And those issues have been with us for a while. I mean, what Guta is complaining about is not new. It's been there over the past 20 years where we have foreigners in the market. As long as the law states that if you are not a Ghanaian, you can't invest or operate in certain investments and then certain areas we call markets. So that's the law. And if the law says that, it must be complied with. So, of course, they have a legitimate cause to say there are foreigners in the market. But the problem extends beyond that because, we have Ghanaians also in Nigeria, we have Ghanaians in Cote d'Ivoire, we have Ivorians in Ghana, we have, there's a crisscross and a mishmash of inter-country relationships which we need to manage. And then, of course, there are the ECOWAS protocols. And then, of course, now we have the CFTA. So in the frame of all that, we have to be careful how we craft the law such that we are not at a disadvantage.
Well, the Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Kofi Grant, was speaking to Joy Business after the opening of this year's Young Entrepreneurs Forum in Accra. There's more in this report.
The two-day forum is bringing together over 500 participants and 50 exhibitors from the agric and agro-processing, technology, energy, manufacturing, banking and non-banking sectors, as well as fashion and lifestyle. Organized by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, the Young Entrepreneurs Forum forms part of efforts to create a sustained avenue for captains of industry to interact with young entrepreneurs through mentorship and masterclass sessions. Delivering a welcome address, the Chief Executive Officer of the Center, Kofi Grant, challenged young entrepreneurs to take advantage of the numerous government policies aimed at empowering startups to scale.
The current government, in its manifesto, had a policy of engaging the youth. So in its first budget, it did indicate that for businesses, young business entrepreneurs, they will have a tax break for 5 years. And then the subsequent years, they will have an incentive of a lower taxation level of 20%. If they are in certain sectors of the economy, you should take advantage of it. You shouldn't just read these things. Take advantage of it. Then, of course, there's the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, which has been seeded by government with some amount of money, which should actually nurture, incubate, promote, and facilitate small businesses and startups, especially by young entrepreneurs.
This year's Young Entrepreneurs Forum is themed Connect, Accelerate, Grow. In the keynote address, CEO of Lene Services, Dr. Ellen Hagan, shared with the entrepreneurs what they must do to break boundaries.
I want to stress that employment is a business decision, not a sentimental one. Do not employ anyone, and I mean do not employ anyone you cannot correct or discipline, or anybody whose values contradict yours. The next thing I will encourage you to is to develop new product and service lines. We in Lene started with recruitment and training And in our early years, we added new products to our service lines, which drove our growth and profitability.
Highlights of the forum include a business pitch session with 20 young entrepreneurs who could benefit from financing.
In other news tonight, the agri sector could be seeing an injection of more funding. The managing director of ADB Bank, Dr. Kofi Mensa, has revealed the bank's plans to increase lending to the sector by 50% of its total loan portfolio. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of ADB Digital Banking breakfast meeting, Dr. Mensa explained the disbursement of the loans will be made even easier with the use of digital platforms.
According to the MD of ADB, the bank is committed to spearheading the use of digital platforms to increase lending in the agriculture sector. The development is expected to help address the age-old challenge of lack of access to capital faced by the agri sector. Dr. Kofi Mensa is MD of ADB Bank.
ADB's agri portfolio in our loan book as at 31st December 2017 was about 20%. We are moving towards 50%. That is our target. Right now we have a 24-hour, even though we call it 24-hour lending facility, it's almost about 1 hour from the branch to credit into your account. It's direct, and we are going to move it faster.
Dr. Mensa was speaking on the sidelines of the bank's Digital Banking Breakfast Summit. The event shed light on the bank's digital banking services as the nation moves towards a cash-light society.
You know, digital drive depends on technology, and technology is now very dynamic. And the issue here is security. You have to make sure that the bank is secured, your clients are secured. For example, if I sell to you a card, and after you have gone to, let's say, an offshore country, and you have transacted with the card, somebody has access to your bank account and siphons money, have not done you any good. So we make sure that we are always improving the security features as the cyber fraudsters also improve upon their ways of maneuvering. So we are there to make sure the safety is always.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
Now, the United States of America has reaffirmed its commitment to supporting Ghana's apparel manufacturing industry. The development is expected to put about 5,000 unemployed youth into gainful employment. This follows a visit by a high-powered delegation led by the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, to Ghana's largest apparel manufacturer, that is Dignity Do the Right Thing, located in Accra. Speaking to Joy Business, the managing director of the manufacturing firm, Salma Salifu, said her outfit, with the support of the U.S. Embassy, is looking at increasing export volumes to $28 million by the end of 2020.
At the end of the day, they are looking at how best we are doing by creating and exporting to the U.S. market. Because the AGUA bill was passed somewhere to 2000, and export has been going on throughout the continent, but then in Ghana we've not been able to do that much. Currently we are doing about 2,500, we have about 2,500 workers, and even from that number, that's what you see. We want to double the number. We are looking at even going as far as to 10,000 workers by 2025. So if we are doing this now, it tells you that we are going to be growing. And I said small because in the apparel world, there's a large market, and you need to also tap into it. And with me and my partners putting this together, we are doing the little we can, but then we want to grow. And so we see ourselves as one of the largest, even in Africa, in the next 2 or 3 years.
So by doubling the number of workforce, are you also looking at doubling the number of exports?
Yes, we have only one buyer that buys from us now. And for that reason, the buyer has a certain number that we can even not give them. We are giving them just a little of that. And other buyers also are looking up to Ghana, because hearing from what we are doing currently, we've gotten buyers from Europe coming to see us, some buyers even from the US who are also here to produce their garments. I'll give you an example of a buyer like Children's Place. They are here to give us the support, and they've come to see the factory, and they saw what we are doing, and they've given us some orders. We're currently working on starting something for them.
Some news from the aviation sector now. The Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Simon Alute, says building the capacity of staff in the aviation industry will ensure Ghana maintains its top spot in aviation safety on the continent. Speaking to Joy Business after the Africa and Indian Ocean Aviation Safety Group meeting in Accra, Mr. Alute stressed steps are being taken to continually improve the nation's safety score.
Ghana became #1 on the continent in terms of flight safety, having earned a high effective implementation score of 89.89% at the International Civil Aviation Organization's recent inspection. According to the Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Engineer Simon Alute, his outfit will continue to build capacity to ensure Ghana maintains the safest aviation space on the continent.
One area we are focusing on continuously is human capacity development. We believe that with a very well-trained, motivated and dedicated workforce, we should be able to address the findings which made us lose nearly 10% in the effective implementation score. We've already put in a mechanism to come up with corrective action plans to address those areas we were not compliant with. Remember, the score was nearly 90%. So we need to work on the remaining 10%, and this will do through effective human capacity development, providing adequate resources, tools for our safety inspectors to work more efficiently.
The Director General was speaking at the Africa and Indian Ocean Aviation Safety Planning and Implementation Group meeting held in Accra. The event stressed on safety and the need for states to collaborate to achieve the highest aviation safety standards. Minister for Aviation Kofi, who spoke at the event, reiterated his commitment to maintain safety standards as the country aspires to become an aviation hub.
Ghana's vision towards becoming an aviation hub in the sub-region is on course. To realize this, a number of infrastructure developments are being rolled out in the last couple of years, including terminal buildings, new air navigation service buildings, extension of airside and landside infrastructure, as well as installation of modern air navigation equipment and capacity built for the aviation sector professionals. Most aviation infrastructure in Ghana are being modernized, and these are intended to improve safety and security of passengers and aircraft in the Accra Flight Information Region.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
And that's it for Business Live tonight. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Go there for the latest news stories. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow. In the meantime, do hang around because we'll be going to Parliament to bring you the live debate going on there on new tax measures proposed by the Finance Minister. We'll bring you that when we have the feed. Do stay tuned to JoyNews.